and ordering decimals. So when you're comparing and ordering decimals, it's incredibly important, to remember the place value of decimals. So let's go ahead and review that decimal place value. So let's say I give you the number 12 and 345 thousandths. Let's remember that this is the tens place. This is the ones place. We've got our decimal point, which means and. Now we've got our tenths, our hundredths, and our thousandths. I cannot spell today. So the ones place is kind of like a mirror. Because remember, on the left side, we've got tens, hundreds, thousands. And on the right side, we've got tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. So when we're looking for comparing and ordering numbers, we're going to be looking at that place value. Just as if I asked you if 12 or 21 was bigger, you would look at the largest place value and say, well, there's a 1 in the tens place and a 2 in the tens place. So I know that the 21 is bigger. We're going to be doing that with our decimals today. Let's look at this first row of problems. We're starting with 62 compared to 65. So let's take a look at our place value. We can see that in the tens place, they are equal. So let's move on to the ones place. In the ones place, there's a 2, and the ones place, there's a 5. Since our tens places are equal, but I can see that the ones place is bigger on this side, I know that it's going to be less than. 62 is less than 65. Remember, that's how we write and read those symbols. We've got less than, greater than, and equal to. Let's try some more. We've got 63 and 3/10 compared to 63 and 2/10. First, let's look at our tens place. Those are equal. Let's look at our ones place. Those are equal. Now let's look at our tenths place. I can see that 3/10 is going to be bigger than 2/10. So I know that it's greater than. I want you to kind of remember and think about how we're dividing this. I know that 3/4 is bigger than 1/4. Because I know if I was to cut it into fourths, I would want the 3/4 of the pizza, not the 1/4 of the pizza. So the number that is going to be bigger in our place value is going to be the bigger number. Let's move on to the next problem. 62 and 2/100 compared to 62 and 20/100. Now remember, this 0 really doesn't mean anything. I could say 20/100 or I could say 2/10. It would be the same if I had written 062. It still says 62. That 0 does nothing. In the decimal at the very end, you can take off the 0. So let's compare these numbers. In the tens place, we have 6s, so those are the same. In the ones place, we have 2s, so those are the same. But take a look at this tenths place. In this tenths place, there's a 0. But in this tenths place, there's a 2. I know that the 0 is less than the 2. Let's move on to the next one. We've got 8 and 250 thousandths. Again, I could cross out that 0 and make it 25/100ths. That would work as well. Look on this side. 8 and 25/100ths again. Just because there's a 0 there doesn't mean anything. They are still equal. You would read this as 8 and 25/100ths or 8 and 250 thousandths. I could also add a 0 here. 8 and 250 thousandths is the same as 8 and 25/100ths. We typically do it without the 0, just because you can save yourself a little bit of time there. Those are going to be equal. Let's look at this next one. Let's compare our ones place is a 3, beautiful. Our tenths place is a 5, beautiful. There's nothing else over here. But for this hundredths and thousandths, it's a 0. 0 is the same as nothing. So I know they are equal. I want to have you start trying some of these on your own. So go ahead and try this first one. 2 and 64/100ths compared to 2 and 52/100ths. For this one, let's compare the 2 in the ones place is exactly the same. Then we get to the 6 in the tenths place and the 5 in the tenths place. I can tell that my 6 is bigger than my 5, so it is greater than. Go ahead and try the next one. For this one, I know I have my 5 in my ones place, so those are equal. I have a 2 in the tenths place. Those are equal. But now I get to my hundredths place, and I see I have a 5 and a 3. I know that the 5 is bigger than the 3, so it's less than. Go ahead and try the next one. For this one, I have my 6 in my ones place, so I know they're equal so far. I have a 2 in the tenths place. They're equal. But take a look at this hundredths place. I can see that the 4 is in the hundredths place here, and the 3 is in the hundredths place here. I know the 4 is bigger, so I know that it's greater than. Go ahead and try the next one. For this one, your 7 is in the ones place, so they're the same. Your 2 is in the tens place, so they're the same. Your 4 is in the hundredths place. They're the same. But look at this thousandths place. The 9 is bigger. All right, go ahead and try the last one. For this one, your 2 is the same. Your tenths place is the same. Your hundredths place is the same. Let's look at that thousandths place. I know the 4 is bigger, so it is greater than. 2 problems left. Let's do the first one together, and then you'll do the last one by yourself. Put the numbers in order from least to greatest. So when I'm looking for least to greatest, I'm going to start with the biggest place value I have, which is the ones place. So I'm looking at my ones place, and I can tell that this 1, because there's a 1 in this place, a 1 in the ones place, that one's going to be the smallest. So 1 and 345 thousandths is going to be smallest. Then the 3 is the next smallest. So we've got 3 and 45 hundredths is next. Next smallest is my 5 and 67 hundredths. And lastly, 8 and 467 thousandths. That one was super easy. This next one, you've got to be really careful about. Go ahead and try this last problem. For this one, I know I took the easy way out, and the ones place were all different on the first one. But for this one, the ones place are all the same. They're all 3. So you need to move on and look at the tenths place. We've got 5, 4, 5, and 5. I know the 4 is the smallest, so I'm going to go ahead and pick that one first. 3 and 486 thousandths. Okay. Now let's compare the hundredths place. I've got a 6, an 8, and an 8. The 6 is the next smallest. 3 and 56 hundredths. Now let's compare these two. We've got everything the same until the thousandths place. This one has a 0 in the thousandths, and this one has a 9. So I know that from least to greatest, we're going to have 3 and 580 thousandths next, and 3 and 589 thousandths last. They're in order from least to greatest. Make sure you glue your notes down and get started on your classwork.